come on down this way. It's hazardous in here. It's toxic. It's very densely populated. There's work everywhere. There's things in progress. There's old stuff. There's new stuff. This is how I work. This is, I've got all my materials that I need. They're, at arm's length and within reach. And I kind of know where most of the stuff is, most of the time. And I've got collage material if I need that. I've got pencils and drawing materials and turpentine and brushes. It's all here. It's just a big mess. But it seems to work for me. I like working this way. I'm not one of these fastidious painters. Well, I've never been very ambitious. So having much of a career has not been that important, Never been very driven, but what I make up for in the lack of ambition and lack of drive in that direction, I've made up in commitment to what I'm doing and resilience and resourcefulness. Having left New York City and having grown up there and being from an art family and having very good art school training and excellent teachers, and all the pieces were in place to have a good career there. I bailed out and decided I wanted a peaceful, quiet life, and just to be left to do my work and explore and see where it takes me. Well, my dad was a painter and a calligrapher, and he worked he was an art director in the big ad agencies in New York City at the time when that was, the height of that world back in the late 50s into the 60s. So I grew up around all that stuff. And he was a terrific painter, though, and a fabulous calligrapher. So I grew up in this atmosphere of paint, easels. I would set up my little paper and paints right next to his easel in our apartment in the Bronx. Basically copy what my dad was doing. We had calligraphy books, or he had calligraphy books from all styles. So that was a huge influence on me when I was a little kid. I mean, before I went to school, that was a big deal. So I would spend a lot of time looking at the calligraphy books, and that, to this day, I think informs a lot of my work, which is really kind of funny. Sometimes my dad would sit down with me and he would point out, he would explain to me what characteristics of these different letter forms would distinguish them from other letter forms. So by the time, I was 5 or 6, before I went to school, I could identify all kinds of typefaces and fonts and understood what was going on. And I got into a lot of trouble at school. The teacher was introducing us to the alphabet, big block letters. And she says, "Does anybody know what this is?" And I raised my hand and I said, "Caslon sans serif." And she just looked at, I was 7 years old. She just looked at me like I was like some alien, child. And she said, "No." And I was really confused. I went, "Okay, well, maybe it's Bodoni sans serif." And she was just flummoxed. She didn't know what language I was talking. She didn't know what was going on. "Anybody else?" "No." "Okay. Class, this is the letter A." I just went, oh my God, is this what school is going to be like? And that was kind of the beginning of my school career. Writing, and writing as drawing, and drawing as writing, and all of that has been a thread that's gone through from the very beginning, from practically from when I could hold a crayon or a pencil or a quill. This piece, for instance, is called "I Love You So Much." You can barely read it. It's there. If you look for it, it's all written in there. It's just written over and over and over and over again on top of itself until you can't read it anymore. So sometimes words lose their meaning. You might be saying the right words, but it becomes muddled, or it's just, so that was the point of this piece, or at least one of the points of this piece. And I've done other pieces where the words are dissolving and they're disappearing. I was trying to find a way of expressing what happens to the words once they're spoken. Where does all that stuff go? Through history, from the beginnings of when people started uttering language. It's all operating on a vibrational level, but once the word is spoken, then it's gone, right? Well, what if that vibration is still, even on an imperceptible level, still floating around? All the words that have ever been spoken are somehow out there. I was talking to some young people last week, 12, 13-year-olds. They want to know what inspires me. Why, how do I keep going, day after day doing this, because I told them I've been at it for basically about 60 years of really knowing that this is what I was going to do and what I've been doing. So I was telling these kids that making stuff is secondary. It's like, yeah, artists make stuff, but it's actually secondary to being curious, to be inquisitive, to be experimental, to have your eyes wide open, your ears open, all the time, as much as possible, looking at things carefully, listening to things carefully, wondering about what makes things tick, what makes people tick. All of that stuff are the principal components of being an artist. And the making comes out of what you're observing, what you're listening to, all that stuff. And, you know, and to follow what you're interested in, whatever it is. The whole thing of trying to make sense of our place in the world, but when you're truly exploring, it's a deep way of life. That's how you move through life, whether you're actually drawing or painting or not. If you're going through life with that kind of a mindset and that kind of awareness, it's a rich life. It's endless. Spend time outdoors, really looking, getting close and examining the barks of trees or how rocks are formed and anything you need to learn about color or form and structure and light and shadow. And it gives you so much to contemplate. They're all based on nature, even the writing stuff, even, you know, it's all in there. It's all integrated, even if it doesn't look like trees or nature or things like that. I used to think it was very important to be like nature. I still think this. And by that, I mean, not that we go out, not I would go out for walks and want to draw pictures of trees and landscapes, but to actually bring the energy of what nature is, you know, the rushing of a spring or just the, you know, plants reaching for the sun or, you know, the element of wind and moving branches or grass or whatever it is, and to bring that to the work.